Good morning.
Good morning.
As Ken said, my name is Rick Fleming, and my wife Chrissy and daughter Taylor Ann, they'll be here a little bit later today. When I told Chrissy that Ken had asked me last Sunday to give the talk, she said, well, Taylor Ann and I will come and support you for both services. And then we got her picked up from Montreat yesterday, and after about an hour with her after that week, Chrissy's like, we're going to sleep in and we'll just come to the 11 o'clock service. So she's getting caught up on rest right now. But I was born and raised in Spartanburg, South Carolina, where my family attended Bethel United, or still attends Bethel United Methodist Church. My parents moved to Spartanburg after getting married, and they found Bethel shortly after, and they have been members since 1980. As far back as I can remember, we attended church every Sunday, first Sunday school, then the 11 o'clock service. My family's never been 8:30ers. My family was involved in serving the congregation of Bethel, and it's where I began participating in children's and youth ministry. I watched my parents serve with the congregation through my entire childhood, and their service continues today. Bethel is where my family first met and developed a relationship with Sarah White, former John Wesley senior pastor. This started as a friendship between my family and Sarah, later adding Steve, that still goes strong to this day. After Bethel, Sarah was moved to Isle of Palms, and then eventually John Wesley, which is how I was first introduced to this church and this congregation. The children's and youth ministry had a profound impact on my life while I attended Bethel. I was very close with my youth minister, Dick Hurd. If there was an activity or a day trip or an overnight trip or a mission trip, I was there, and I am probably one of the reasons he is no longer a youth minister, and he's currently serving as an associate minister in the upstate. MYF is where I formed the closest friendships of my childhood, and is where I considered my walk with Christ to begin. Through Wednesday night Bible studies, Sunday school, beach retreats, and mission trips, I truly began to learn about the love of God, and at this time is where my earliest memory of my own God moments began. Growing up at Bethel, I learned the importance of being involved, serving your church, and making disciples of Christ inside and outside the walls of the church. I've seen my parents serve on just about every committee a Methodist church could possibly have, and I've saw many of my friends' parents volunteer with our youth group. I participated in 6 mission trips, and I even chaperoned one with my youth group after I graduated college. After graduating high school, I attended Erskine College with every intention to major in Bible and become a youth minister. In my 18-year-old mind, being a youth minister had to be one of the easiest and most fun jobs in the entire world. You work a couple of days a week, you take a few trips in the summer, and then you just hang out with teenagers all the time. Who wouldn't want to sign up for that? However, first semester of freshman year at Erskine, Tuesdays and Thursday mornings at 8 a.m., I had Old Testament. And I quickly learned that maybe that was not the path for me. And Old Testament at Erskine was nothing like Wednesday night Bible study with my youth minister. So my path quickly switched to being a business major. And I remember having a conversation with my parents where my mom would say that maybe you're not being called to be a youth minister, maybe you're just being called to work with youth. So while my career projections changed at Erskine, I continued my walk with Christ through participation in FCA, other Bible studies, and I put in here attending random churches around Due West. Erskine's in the middle of nowhere, and the church in Due West wasn't great, so usually I would be in Greenwood and let my aunt and uncle take me out to lunch afterwards. So my junior year, I met Chrissy, and we later got married in 2007. Chrissy moved to Charleston after graduation, and when I would visit, we would attend church with her roommates from time to time, but it had more of a contemporary vibe than what I was looking for. Chrissy can get into all the hand raising and stuff, which is a little different vibe than I wanted and I'm used to. I was familiar with John Wesley due to our friendship with Sarah White, and after we got married, we started looking for a church home. We began to come to John Wesley a few times a month. We'd slide in the back over there, 11 o'clock service, and then slide right back out after it was over. And we did this for probably a year or so. For close to 20 years, my family, my parents and my sister and me and Sarah and Steve bought 6 South Carolina football tickets together. And one Saturday while tailgating, Sarah asked me where Chrissy and I had been going to church, and I told her we had been visiting John Wesley. Her next question out of her mouth was, "Why are you not volunteering with the youth yet?" And I gave her, I don't remember, it wasn't much of an answer, but it wasn't what she was looking for. And after I left the tailgate that afternoon to go visit some friends, she looked at my parents and said, "I'll handle that next week." Sarah knew David Budoff had just recently returned to John Wesley as the new youth minister, and she thought that we could help him out. So I think I got it right. Sarah called Miss Hope, and Miss Hope came and found Chrissy and I. She introduced us to herself. She introduced us to David. She also introduced me to Tommy Carrios so I could play on the church softball team. And shortly after meeting, David asked if Chrissy and I would be willing to come see what volunteering with the youth is something we'd be interested in. Chrissy thought I was just volunteering myself, and she did not realize that I had volunteered both of us. So the first Sunday night I remember we came, it was Chrissy and I, David, Jeff, and Diane Smith, and I think we had like 7 youth. So you can see how much the youth ministry's grown since David got here. And we've been volunteering with him ever since. So over the last 15 years, we've been on 5 mission trips, and most recently, we attempted one. We made it about an hour down the road and had to turn around and come back. I've been with the youth on countless retreats and basketball tournaments, and I'm here just about every Sunday night during the school year for Sunday night youth. I've seen the other volunteers, mainly Chrissy and Christy, finally learn to go with the flow with David and me and not stress out when every last detail is not planned out. We have a long-standing joke amongst the youth volunteers on mission trips that I am never included in any of the adult meetings. Often the adults will need to huddle with David to make plans or work out details, and honestly I have no idea what goes on in those meetings because I don't ever attend them. Someone needs to stay with the youth, and David knows where I'm best suited, and he leaves me in charge of watching the kids, which usually means I am in the middle of whatever's going on, stirring the pot and making sure they don't get hurt while the other adult volunteers meet. Youth volunteering and mission trips aside, I've also coached many games in the State Methodist basketball tournament. I've been coaching so long now that I have former players who have joined my coaching staff, Sam and Andrew, and I have other former players who have come back and are coaching the younger teams. I saw Gabe slide in here just a minute ago. Don't get it wrong, though. I know it's hard for some of you to believe, but not all of my service to John Wesley comes through the youth and sports ministries. I've also had the privilege to serve this church and congregation as chair of finance, chair of church council, and I'm currently the church treasurer. In these roles, I've served alongside many of you in this congregation. I've gotten to know many of you through this service and have seen firsthand your love for John Wesley and God's calling of you to serve our congregation. Some of you are here so much answering your call to serve that we might as well put you on staff. That one's for Gordon Morgan, who'll probably be here at 11. It's a true privilege to serve this church, and one of the most gratifying factors now is seeing many of our past youth have returned to John Wesley and have stepped right back into serving this congregation. It's through these times of service that I have felt God's love firsthand. David always talks on mission trips about having God moments, and I can stand here today and say that some of my favorite God moments have been since we joined John Wesley. Chrissy and I stood right there and joined the church, and she got baptized. A few years later, same spot, we baptized Taylor Ann, and I continue to have these God moments through many of my favorite John Wesley events, such as Breakfast with Santa, May Day Play Day, and the Dave Garner Fish Fry, just to name a few. As a parent, seeing Taylor Ann now participate in the ministries of this church blesses me with constant God moments. I'm so thankful, as many of you are, that I'm part of a church that places such an emphasis on children's, youth, and music ministries. Standing here today, I can tell you that joining John Wesley was one of the best decisions that Chrissy and I have ever made. It strengthened my walk with Christ. I've met some of my closest friends, and it allows me to continue to serve the Lord today. I want to challenge you to listen to the call of Christ, to serve and get involved in all this church has to offer. I promise you won't regret it. Thank you.